It's an absolute novelty. Completely unique. Called the Aquapen. Bought it off a chap at work called Gillivant. It's like an ordinary fountain pen, except you fill it with water and it comes out as ink. Gillivant received it as a present from his aunt. 25 shillings it cost, but I purchased it for 3 and 6. Of course, I very rarely enter into such transactions, but Gillivant seemed to have no use for such a fine invention. Absolute novelty. Try it. Give it to me. Just needs an adjustment or something. Depress perforated plate B until orifice F is exposed to view, taking care not to confuse this with orifice G, which is found on the... There were 14 different things you had to do to fill the Aquapen, and they had to be done in the right order. There was also a list of 10 things you were warned not to do, or the pen could be ruined altogether. Nerve-wracking. Really? I enlisted Eliza as assistant, asking her to read me the directions whilst I carried them out. She remarked that trying to get the Aquapen to write had already taken me 3 hours, whereas an ordinary pen and ink would have taken 3 seconds. I assured her that once the instructions were committed to memory, it would not take longer than 10 minutes. Nevertheless, the instructions were a shade more complicated than I had at first envisaged. I had some trouble depressing perforated plate B on spiral spring C, round tube DE, and then finding orifice F. One
end goes in there.
Eliza does not have the patience required when dealing with scientific instruments.
Maybe I should just throw them up in the air, see what happens.
I'm trying my best, Ernest.
Your best is not good enough.
I only just stopped Eliza from interfering with orifice G with her hairpin, of all things. Why she thought orifice G needed stretching, I cannot imagine.
What's he doing?
Finally, having squirted water into the pen, I was ready. Never in my life have I had a pen that wrote better. I gave it to Eliza to try, observing that there seemed to be no limits to the marvels of modern science.
Just think, Eliza. If I was in a place where I could find water, but no ink, just think how useful this pen would be. Eliza, I said if I was in a place where I could find water, but no ink, just think how useful this pen would be.
Your mother's quite wrong, you know. I find the ink used in this pen just as good as that used in any normal fountain pen. At breakfast yesterday, the ink was already much darker. The oscillation in the train did it good, you see. Within 11 hours of filling, only an expert could tell the difference between the ink in the Aquapen and real ink. I showed it to several colleagues at work today, and they all said it was the most ingenious thing they'd ever seen. Yesterday was the only happy day I had with the Aquapen. This morning I lent it to Mr. Bagshaw to sign the wages cheques. I was sure he'd be impressed. He told me never to bring the infernal thing into the office again. I offered him a recipe which I'd found useful myself for removing ink stains from linen. After that, the Aquapen refused to work at all. I requested a refund from Gillivant. He had, of course, no money. He suggested I took the pen back to the makers in Holborn because he felt that they were duty-bound to give me a refund or even a new pen. So I went into the shop and adopted the manner of a man who means to stand for no nonsense. 25 shillings it cost 3 weeks ago, I said. And now it's not worth 25 pennies. What's the use of a pen that can't write? I call it an absolute waste of money. Permit me, said the young man,
taking the pen from my hand as if I wasn't perfectly capable of telling whether a pen could write or not. Anyway, as far as I could see, all he did was unscrew one of the caps and then screw it back on again. There was no reluctance in starting, no excessive flow of ink. The Aquapen couldn't have worked better. This morning, I decided to sell the Aquapen. My confidence in it was entirely sapped. I slipped it into my pocket to take to work. I should hardly have thought it possible that so small a thing could have held so much ink. The articles totally ruined or seriously damaged by it were one coat, purchased only last Christmas, one waistcoat with genuine silk lining, one shirt, heavily stained, one undergarment, a corset in point of fact, one pair of Barclay braces, the special Aquapen ink acting as a solvent of rubber, one handkerchief, invaluable in staunching the excessive flow of ink, one packet of Pride of the Harem Turkish cigarettes, the cigarettes reserved for special occasions and now rendered unsmokable, 4 halfpenny stamps, we think. When I discovered the disaster, I must have slightly lost my head. I took the Aquapen and hurled it out of the carriage window. For a few seconds, I experienced a kind of savage satisfaction. But the purchase price of 3 and 6pence was now lost irretrievably. When I arrived at the office, Gillivant offered to return my 3 and 6pence in exchange for the Aquapen. His aunt, you see, was due to visit, and he felt obliged to show her the thing. He was desperate, ready even to offer me 7 shillings. I had to inform him that the Aquapen was no longer in my possession, but secreted somewhere on a viaduct between Tooting and Elephant and Castle. Sometimes I think more things of this kind happen to me than happen to any other man. And I wonder why.
We've another slice of life with Eliza and indeed Ernest tomorrow evening at 6:30.